Welcome to the Film Buff Brothers, the movie podcast where two brothers talk about film. I'm Dave.
I'm Steven.
You can check out our website at filmbuffbrothers.com. We are on Facebook and Twitter at FBB Podcast. And we're also on Google+. And if you want to subscribe to us, you can do that on iTunes. Just search for us on there. All right, now we're going to do a review of District 9 from 2009. Is that right? Yeah. 2009. Directed by Neil Blomkamp, starring Sharlto Copley, Jason Cope, and David James. The plot: an extraterrestrial race forced to live in slum-like conditions on Earth suddenly finds a kindred spirit in a government agent who is exposed to their biotechnology. What did you think of District 9?
It was a great movie. I mean, when it came out, it was something new. And
I wouldn't say it's great, but it was really good for what it was. It offered a bit of kind of an original take on cliched ideas that you see in sci-fi a lot.
Yeah.
No, we saw this when it came out back in 2009. We just watched it again recently, and you hadn't seen it since then, right?
No, I haven't.
Did you like it better this time around, or?
About the same. I mean, it was kind of had some fresh ideas when it came out, and
I liked it maybe a little bit more. I'll probably still rate it the same that I would have back then, but I think it was a little bit better than I remembered it. I remember being a little bit disappointed because, when I remember specifically when we watched the trailers for this, I had no idea what the plot was until we actually watched the movie.
No, and they kind of...
I think they actually did have some trailers where they did show more, but I don't think I ever saw them.
I think we kind of avoided trailers for when it first came out.
I don't think I avoided any trailers for it because I thought I wanted to know more about it, but I didn't. Like the first trailer, at least the first two, like hardly showed anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, we almost went in pretty much blind on this one. Like I just kind of had an idea of what it was about.
Yeah. We kind of knew a little bit of the backstory of how it came about, but
well, Neil Blomkamp, I guess some of the background on him is him and I don't know how to say his name, Sharlto Copley. Copley was kind of his mentor, I guess, and Neil Blomkamp met him when he was like 16, when Neil Blomkamp was 16 years old, and he's worked in art and stuff, and he's done advertising and a whole bunch of different stuff. And it's kind of an interesting backstory, and I guess they're sort of more of a partnership than Neil Blomkamp and the studio hiring Sharlto Copley than anything else. I wonder how much input Sharlto Copley actually had in this movie and their follow-up in Elysium. Do you think he's just an actor, or do you think... Or have you read anything about their relationship?
No, I haven't really read anything about their relationship. I mean, it's kind of hard to know whether how much.
Yeah, it's just speculation, but I was somewhat not too surprised to find out that he was kind of a mentor because they're both South African and Neil Blomkamp's quite a bit younger.
Yeah.
I think he directed this when he was only 29 or somewhere around there. He's only about 33 now.
Yeah.
So, any highlights that you liked in the? What do you think of the documentary style? I remember when we first saw it, that really confused me.
Yeah,
because not only were we going in blind, but it just opens up and it's like a documentary. It's like, wait a minute, what's going on?
Yeah, the previews that we saw didn't show that.
I don't remember what the preview saw. Like I wish I'd gone on YouTube and looked at one of the first trailers just to remember what it actually was. But I remember it hardly showed any of the plot or anything.
No, I mean it kind of showed just glimpses of the movie, and I mean,
Do you like the documentary style for the first, I guess, first half or fourth or whatever?
yeah,
I don't know what.
I think it works for this movie. I mean,
I thought it was really interesting new way to present a movie, and then it kind of goes into like being a regular movie.
yeah,
About almost halfway, maybe a little bit before.
but I mean, it lets the main character tell the story, the backstory of the movie. Without, without being,
it's not really the main character doing it. It's like the whole. I think the guy who did most of the narration near the beginning in the talking head documentary spots.
Yeah,
He was actually the same actor that played the alien, the main alien guy that he meets later. He wore the motion capture suit and everything.
yeah.
How did you feel about that showing? Or, yeah, let's get into that real quick. How do you feel about the aliens? How they looked?
I mean, they didn't look real CGI-ish.
I don't know what. I guess some of the bad guy army and Avengers or something kind of did the same thing, but I don't think they looked quite as good. Although you didn't really get a good look at them throughout that whole giant action scene near the end.
Yeah.
In this, you get like really up close, and they did a really good job. I think.
Yeah.
This gives me a lot of hope for the Ninja Turtles movie because I think they're doing it pretty much the same way.
Yeah. I mean,
At least for the look of the turtles. I don't know about the plot.
yeah. I mean, this you really couldn't tell that it was CGI. Some at parts, it's like, is that a puppet or is it CGI?
Yeah, I could pretty much tell it was CGI throughout, but I think overall it was just really good looking CGI. I guess it's a little bit easier to do when it's aliens.
Yeah.
Like when it's an animal, I think it's a lot harder because people have actually seen those animals in real life.
Yeah. Well, and we've seen a lot of pictures of them or
Yeah.
video, and yeah.
How do you feel about the second half of the movie? Not the documentary part, but like, I guess it's not the second half. I guess it's a little bit more than second half. It's kind of the middle and the last part, I guess. Because the documentary style doesn't last too long, does it? It's maybe 20 to 25 minutes at the most.
Aspects of it carry through. I mean,
yeah, they definitely shoot it documentary style throughout the movie, which I didn't notice the first time, but now that I saw that, I really like the style of that. It's sort of shaky cam, but not to the point to where it makes you sick.
no.
They're not doing it to hide certain things. They're doing it clearly as just an aesthetic type of thing.
Yeah. And to kind of point out things that it would look weird to point out.
They yeah, it kind of gets into some sci-fi cliches. I won't mention them for anyone who hasn't seen the movie, but it definitely, like, I don't know, nothing about this movie you really haven't seen before, although that kind of makes sense considering this movie, the whole plot is these aliens are living in this District 9 type of slum.
Yeah, it's a slum.
And it's actually based off South African history and how a lot of, I forget what town it was, but it was called a district or something, and a very similar thing happened where they evicted all of the people because they decided that they didn't want black people in that city. And this is pretty much, this movie's completely pretty much based off that, the idea of that and the history of that. I think that's pretty interesting. It's nothing really original, but I think the movie, the way the movie's shot and the documentary part and all that, I think that's pretty original. But some of the plot elements, it's just regular sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, well, you really haven't seen any like aliens kind of like that. I mean, living
in a slum like that. Yeah, I think that was a cool idea.
Yeah,
I think that is original, but there's there's certain things in the second half that it gets into that you've definitely seen in other sci-fi movies. Like,
Yeah,
it sort of reminded, in some parts, it sort of reminded me of, I don't remember the movie. It had Louis Gossett Jr. and Dennis Quaid, where the Louis Gossett Jr. plays the alien, and Dennis Quaid's like this space astronaut guy and takes care of the alien guy who died his son. Or Enemy Mine or something like that. It kind of reminded me of that movie.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that movie's as good as District 9, but there's some elements of that in this movie.
Yeah, that was actually one of my favorite sci-fi movies growing up.
I'm sorry.
It is just an interesting...
We need to watch that again. I don't think it holds.
Yeah, it was just an interesting sci-fi movie. It's just not...
I've also heard comparisons between District 9 and Alien Nation, which...
Yeah,
very similar.
Yeah, that's kind of... Yeah, that...
To a point. And it's... Anything else you can remember that you want to talk about?
It's kind of highlights some political stuff. I mean...
Yeah, and that kind of comes from just it being based off a historical event.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much...
It's what would you want to do out of 5 stars reviews? Okay, or ratings. What would you give District 9 out of 5 stars?
4.
4?
Yeah.
I was gonna give it 4.
Yeah.
I'm still giving it 4. Steal my rating. Next,
Yeah.
from now on, I go first.
Whatever.
Okay, Steven gives it 4, and Dave, give it 4 out of 5 stars. But yeah, it's a decent movie. If people haven't checked it out because they're afraid to think what they're gonna think of it, I think most people definitely like this movie. I didn't think I'd like it as much watching it the second time, and I did. I even liked it a little bit more.
You see a little bit more the second time through.
Yeah, it doesn't. Watching it the first time is kind of mind blowing a little bit because you got to get used to the documentary part at the beginning, and I think watching it the second time is actually better. Okay, so anything else?
No.
All right. Well, that's our District 9 review. Thanks for listening.